AskReddit by Jammer Speech 111. Who is a bad guy in history who actually wasn't a bad guy? Richard Jewell, initially lauded as a hero and a brave man who ran towards the bomb to help. Then the FBI and media turned on him and accused him of doing the bombing himself, because he was actually just as fucking outlandishly brave and ran toward the bomb to help people. They took his truck for evidence. He had to go into hiding, made a villain by incompetent people. 4 years, finally exonerated and dies shortly afterward. This very website almost did the same to someone after the Boston Marathon bombing. Edit, sick of individual replies to people who comment before reading the thread. Sunil Tripathi was already missing for a month by the time of the bombing. He was found several days later in a river, having died by suicide. They have never definitively said whether he was even still alive by the time of the bombing. Yes, he did commit suicide, but saying it was a direct result is speculation. Has this website not hurt his family enough without you people passing off rumors as fact? That woman who was accused of kidnapping children because her kids didn't have her DNA, but in fact her uterus had different DNA than the rest of her body. Lydia Fairchild. She has chimerism, so her uterus has different DNA from the rest of her body, the DNA of her absorbed twin. William Thomas Green Morton died broke defending his discovery of anesthesia. He was a dentist and didn't get much respect from the doctors at the time. IMO, one of the most important medical discoveries. Anesthesia is arguably the most important medical discovery in history. Modern surgery is literally impossible without it. In the film Titanic, the character Murdoch killed someone, took bribes and generally came across as a right shit. He was a real life person who was actually a hero and saved many lives. His living relatives were so disgusted that the VP of Fox traveled to Dalbeattie to personally apologize and presented a £5,000 donation to Dalbeattie High School to boost the school's William Murdoch Memorial Prize. That movie's initial gross was over $1.8 billion. Donating £5,000 is like the average us man giving them a dime and saying my bad. Deleted. Trivia fact. His son Max Baer, Jr. is better known as Jethro Bodine from the Beverly Hillbillies. Richard Jewell. Security guard at the Atlanta Olympic who was blamed for the bombing. He was mocked for moving in his with mother. He and his mom did an interview on Oprah sometime later. They said it was because his mom was sick and he was taking care of her. It's really not that uncommon for middle-aged people to move in with aging parents. BTW. His mom is still alive last I checked. She is still friends with his lawyer and their children. She is apparently a very nice woman. In Braveheart, William Wallace gets betrayed by Robert the Bruce, which never happened. He was loyal to the end. That movie made me so angry. I grew up on it, and loved it for what I assumed was a historically accurate portrayal. Not only is the movie absurdly inaccurate, the real history is arguably more interesting than the movie. There was no need for artistic restructuring. They could have just dramatized the actual events and it would have been a great movie. Captain Bligh. His mistake was being too soft rather than too harsh. He let his crew slack off while they were waiting to make sure the breadfruit trees would survive transplantation, and they mutinied when he put them back to work. It should also be mentioned that when some of his crew mutinied, so many of them wanted to be allowed to leave with him on the ship's tiny open launch that even fully laden they would not all be able to go and had to draw lots to see who had to stay on the Bounty. Captain Bligh then had to sail the tiny overcrowded poorly provisioned boat 6,700 kilometers to Timor using dead reckoning. He did not lose a single man. Absolute hero. The McDonald's coffee lady. The woman who sued MC Donald's after she spilled coffee on her lap received third-degree burns in her pelvic area. She was hospitalized for 8 days and required a couple years of rehabilitation. The media jumped on the story, making it a poster case for frivolous lawsuits. Edit. Corrected typos. OMG, I vividly remember this story. It was so sad tbh. At first I thought it was stupid too, but then I read she had severe burns and all. She really wasn't overreacting. Dr. Kevorkian is history since he's dead, so I have to go with him. People should absolutely be able to make the decision about end-of-life care, and I think with time people will not only start thinking differently, that conviction will be overturned. Lorena Bobbitt. She became such a meme and was always blamed for attacking her husband unprovoked, but she was defending herself from a serial rapist and abuser. He literally had raped her earlier that same day. In the same spirit, Monica Lewinsky didn't deserve any of the hatred she received either. She was so young and she was taken advantage of by the literal most powerful man in the world, but somehow her name ended up labeling the scandal. Pharaoh Cleopatra. She was actually a pretty good ruler, with her focusing more on her nation than just abusing her position for her own benefit. There's even some records saying that she wasn't even all that beautiful. She was however very intelligent, with stuff like how she learned around 10 different languages. First member of the Ptolemaic dynasty to bother learning Egyptian. She did amazing things in managing to actually expand Egypt's territory in a time of Roman dominance. However, in the end she monumentally screwed up, lost her nerve at the Battle of Actium, and doomed pharaonic Egypt. Julius Caesar. He was no angel, but he wasn't executed for trying to turn Rome into a dictatorship. In fact, it was actually because he was a political reformer who wanted to tax the wealthy landowners. The Senate had always been very violent to reformers, as most of it was made up of wealthy landowners. They tried to rewrite history to make reformers like Tiberius seem evil for trying to grant rights to workers and small landowners, while death squad leaders who killed anyone advocating reform, such as Lucius Sulla, have been paraded by historians. All throughout history and including today, reformers are treated the worst by those in charge and their lackeys. Niccolo Machiavelli. Machiavelli didn't invent the idea of lying or ruthlessness. He made an observation about what worked and tried to get a new gig. Now his name is synonymous with heartless manipulator. He didn't invent the game, but he did write the manual. Machiavelli. One of the most honest dudes in history, and his name is instead synonymous with villainy. For real, the prince was basically his "please let me return to Florence, my exile, I can be really useful." The bad guy Razor Ramon. Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do. Rip Chico. Tom the Cat. Jerry is a menace. There was a post the other day talking about them and how they are actually working together. As long as Jerry keeps running around, the humans think they have a mouse problem, so they keep the cat. As long as Tom keeps showing he's making an effort, they think he's doing a good job. But they are both in on it and just do it to keep up appearances. There's apparently an episode where they work together to get food from the fridge, then hide and share it as friends before going back out and chasing each other again. Nanda the Relentless. Master, you've got to plug the Ethernet cable in. Thank you, Guillermo. I'm familiar with how the ether works. Remember the gay dude who was basically the reason we were able to beat the Nazis cause he decrypted their codes? Alan Turing? He got forcibly sterilized for being gay, something that led to his death. Despite all the good he did, he was treated like a bad guy just cause he was gay. Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. Fun fact, Keystone Studios, where he and Charlie Chaplin filmed much of their work in the teens and 20s, is now a public storage building and I store my random crap in it. I hope to hear ghosts when I go but never do. Edit. It's public storage on Glendale Avenue in Echo Park, LA, if anyone wants to check it out. I did close to 25 years in prison for something I never did. Friends and family all gone. I survived it all. Life can suck, but one can endure it seems without losing your mind if you're lucky. If you wish to call that lucky. Geez man, that's fkin horrible. Sinead O'Connor. She was trying to warn us on SNL about the Catholic kiddie diddling problem, and we shat on her for it. Former Catholic here. People worshipped Pope John Paul II like he was an untouchable god. My aunt went to Nick to see him in the 90s and to this day won't shut up about the time she saw the Pope and he blessed all her shit from his Pope mobile. Monica Lewinsky. That woman who spilled McDonald's coffee on her lap. We studied this case in my law class. McDonald's knew their coffee was too hot, hotter than legally allowed. They did it to get more coffee per bean. They had been sued by other burn victims and ordered to reduce the temperature. They didn't. The woman's labia melted and she had third-degree burns. All she wanted was medical bills covered because her insurance wouldn't cover it. In response, McDonald's started a smear campaign against her. The judge issued punitive damages, a punishment for the continued reckless behavior by McDonald's. She was awarded a single day's profit from coffee sales. That's all. 1 day of coffee profit. Milli Vanilli 1 committed suicide for being hired in a music industry lip-syncing travesty that's basically now commonplace. The real villain is the record industry. Edit. Not enough of y'all commenting realize that Frank Farian is to blame for hiring them in the first place. Rob and Fab could have been anyone Farian orchestrated. Rob and Fab scapegoated. Edit 2. I was wrong to say suicide. I apologize for that. My memory isn't what it used to be. Rob's death may not have been directly from the scandal, but I don't think it's a stretch to say the two events are intertwined. And Frank Farian specifically, to be exact. One of the obituaries I am looking forward to. Sinead O'Connor. She was right. The Catholic Church's handling of predator priests was appalling. Heinz Doofenshmirtz. It all started on the day of my actual birth. Both my parents failed to show up. Sinead O'Connor. Ripped up a picture of the Pope live on SNL in the 90s in a protest against covered up child abuse in the Catholic Church. The world lost their shit. She was demonized and professionally blacklisted for years, booed to hell at concerts, had her intelligence and sanity questioned, and was made into an international punchline. Even SNL disavowed her actions and wouldn't rebroadcast it. And, turns out she was 1000% right. The movie Cinderella Man Braddock became the heavyweight champion of the world after beating Max Baer in a 1935 fight. That had him pegged as a 10-1 underdog. The movie made Max Baer out to be a piece of shit human being, but he wasn't that bad. Look him up. Probably not apropos given this info, but that performance by Craig Bierko is an all-time classic. Played him as intelligent and almost suave gentlemanly, but that sudden yet subtle look and head tilt he'd make when his mind switched to primarily dangerous, preparing to knock out someone, was incredibly convincing. And the award for the most dangerous question of the day goes to